God can't do a new thing in your life as long as you're living in the past. Hey, we got a great word for you today. We're going to continue the teaching on 7 reasons there's a pony in your life somewhere. So I tell you what, let's get started. Hey, child of God, welcome back to the broadcast. If you did not watch our program yesterday, make sure you go to the website, debtfreearmy.org. You can actually do one of two things. You can just read the entire teaching there on the front page, or where it says webcast, you can click and go watch yesterday's program, or you may want to do both. But I want to continue the teaching, 7 reasons there has to be a pony in here somewhere. Now, I'm not going to tell you the whole story again, but the first point that we talked about yesterday was you choose your outlook. So we're going to pick up with the second point right now. And the second point is, don't let somebody else's mess affect your outlook. Don't let somebody else's mess affect your outlook. Now, my inner circle of friends used to include, well, people who liked to commiserate, people who wanted to hash and rehash a lot of negative things of the problems they were having, situations in their life. But my circle of friends don't include folks like that anymore. In fact, truthfully, haven't for years. But you need to know that toxic talk and attitudes are both infectious and contagious. Toxic talk and attitudes are both infectious and contagious, so it's important who you hang around with. Never hang around with people who like to criticize, complain, and seek out fellow commiserators, because they will adversely affect your future. Make no mistake about it. If you've been laid off from a job, don't hang around with other people who've been laid off from the job, because all they want to do is talk about how bad the company is and how they weren't appreciated or how they were ill-treated by the company. It's way too easy to rehearse your hurts, to relive your past frustration or anger, talking yourself into things and believing things or worse than perhaps they actually were. It's wasted energy. To do any of that is just wasted energy. And your time would be better spent planning how to make things better. I remember one of my meetings some years back hearing 2 men talk about how they hid their cars from the repo man, the creative steps that they went through to keep their car from being repossessed. Now let me just say to you, if they'd have spent that much time figuring out how to get extra income, then they wouldn't have to worry about it in the first place. If you spend your time with people, negative people, who talk about negative events, no surprise, it won't be long before you find yourself becoming more and more negative. The dominant thoughts in your life will draw similar thoughts to you like a magnet. In other words, if you're negative, you can know you're going to be drawing negative thinkers to your life. And that's the worst thing that you could possibly do. If you dwell on past failures, hurts, broken relationships, and financial mistakes, make no mistake about it, you're doomed to repeat them. Isaiah 43:18 in the Message Bible says, forget about what's happened, don't keep going over old history. Here's a fact. Said it at the top of the broadcast. God can't do a new thing in your life as long as you're living in the past. Don't commiserate about what's happened. Instead, plan for what's going to happen. Third, you have to walk through the mess. First, you got to acknowledge that you messed up. This is all a part of point 3, 4 things. You got to acknowledge you messed up. Let me just say this, if you're on planet Earth and you're able to hold the mirror up to your nose and fog it, meaning if you're breathing, then you've messed up. For some people, that's more of a habit than others, but no one's exempt from it. Romans 3:23 says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Bottom line is, you've sinned and messed up at one time or another. And what do you do when you've messed up? What's the second point? I'll tell you right after this. You know, there's all different kinds of money. There's hard-earned money, inherited money, stolen money, gambling money, and the list goes on and on. I'm Harold Herring, president of the Debt Free Army, and I'm here to tell you about a very different kind of money, miracle money. I've discovered that God's miracle money is available not just to a select few, but to those who know how to reach out and receive it. I want to send you a free copy of a book that I helped develop and publish entitled Miracle Money. God told me to put this book into the lives of those who had the faith to pick up the phone and call 1-800-DEBT-FREE. If you're suffering economic hardship, if it seems you just can't make ends meet financially, then this may be the most important phone call you'll ever make. The book is free. The call is free. So why not pick up the phone right now and call 1-800-DEBT-FREE?
Learn about the miracle money God's holding for you. Call 1-800-DEBT-FREE.
Hey, child of God, welcome back. Today we're talking about how the third point, we were finished off on that, we're on that. You have to walk through the mess. On the third point, there were four things to consider. First, you have to acknowledge that you messed up. Second, you need to fess up. You cannot be in denial. And denial is not a river in Egypt. You can't be in denial. Denial simply means you don't even know that you are lying to yourself. In fact, if you make it an acronym, you could make it, don't even know I am lying to myself. That's denial. Confession is good for the soul. That's more than just an old saying. It's a spiritual truth, a scriptural directive. When you're walking with God, it's the only way to stay clean. 1 John 1:9 says, if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to cleanse us and forgive us of all unrighteousness. Third, you need to get up. If you've been forgiven, you're just that, forgiven. It's time to get up and leave the past behind. There's nothing wrong with being down and out and wrong as long as you want to get up right and in. But sometimes folks just kind of like to sit there. How do you get up? How do you get up and get going? You focus your thoughts on Him. Consider Psalm 139 verse 2 and the New Century Version. You know when I sit down and when I get up. You know my thoughts before I think them. Now if you're going to read verse 3, it says, if I'm remembering this correct, you go in front of me, and when I look ahead and you're there, I look behind and you're there, always reassuring with confident thoughts. Fourth, you need to move on. It's not just get up, you need to move on. Fess up. If you mess up, fess up, get up, and move on. Exodus 14:15 in the Living Bible. Then the Lord said to Moses, quit praying and move the people forward, march. Got to be a pony in here somewhere. Fourth, sometimes you have to step over the mess. Fourth, this is the fourth point. Sometimes you have to step over the mess. There are times in our lives when we need to let something or someone go. We need to step over the mess that's been made in our lives and move on in our journey to success. This can be a rough process because I can tell you if you care for someone who doesn't care for you or someone who's hurt you deeply, it can be a difficult process, but it's critically important. Always remember, you can't control what other people do, but you can how you respond and react to them every time. We have to step out and step over certain situations in our lives because if we don't, the enemy, the adversary, will use that to hold us back and keep us from fulfilling God's divine destiny for our lives. Psalm 119, verse 133 in the New Living Translation. Guide my steps by your word so that I will not be overcome by evil. Let me say this. Have you ever, I don't know if you've ever been in a parade and when you were in school in a marching band or maybe walking beside a float, but if you've ever been in a parade and there are horses in that parade and they're in front of you, then it's wisdom for you to be looking where you're walking. Because I can tell you, if you're not, things can get messy real quick. Sometimes you have to step over the residue, I think that's a nice way of saying it, in order to avoid certain things in your life. That's true in the natural realm, but it's also true in the spiritual realm. Proverbs 4:23 in the Message Bible says, keep vigilant watch over your heart. That's where life starts. Don't talk out of both sides of your mouth. Avoid careless banter, white lies, and gossip. Keep your eyes straight ahead. Ignore all sideshow distractions. Watch your step, and the road will stretch out smooth before you. Look neither to the right nor left. Leave evil in the dust. I think the Scripture is pretty clear about this and what you need to do and how you need to move on it. And I can tell you that once again, we've come to an end of a program. You know, normally I finish most times in one day, sometimes two, but this is going to be, we're going to finish this tomorrow. But I refuse, this is too critical, too important of a teaching, just to rush through. Hey, before I go, let me encourage you to take your mouse, move up to the top where it says sow a seed, and just ask God if today is the day that He'd have you sow a precious seed into the ministry of the Debt Free Army and the Rich Thoughts Television Network. Just do what He says. That's all I ask. And by the way, send me an email. If you're the 7th person to send me an email, I'll sow $50 into your life. Why? Just because God told me to do it. Until we meet again, happy trails and keep thinking rich thoughts.